Humboldt?
So I'm pretty sure the CFA is really good at advocating for faculty in terms of their wages, so I'll speak more in terms of things impacting students and not so much the issues on the line, which is whether or not faculty are compensated justly, but how it is we're going about this negotiation and how this strike is going to impact students. And I talked to the CFA when they were here about that, and that's the issue that comes to mind is mental health services and the devastating impact that the strike is going to have on that, and the lack of communication from both their presidents and the Chancellor's office regarding that interruption of services. Our counseling services in the CSU are dramatically underfunded, and I understand that's due to where we're at, given the state's appropriations. Given that, the strike is going to limit those services even further, and yet our presidents are emailing us out information that's telling us that those services aren't going to be interrupted. That's just not true. Can you speak on what the university is doing to mitigate those damages and to mitigate that harm to some of our most vulnerable populations?
Yeah, it's an excellent and vitally important question, not only for the mental health aspects, but also law enforcement and other essential services that focus on health and safety. So when it comes to the counselors that are working with students with mental health, they're being asked if they're going to be at work or not, and they have a contractual right not to answer that question. And so if a campus thinks that, knows that, let me just make up numbers that makes the conversation point. Let's say there's 5 on a campus, and if 4 say I'm going to show up, and 1 doesn't want to let people know, or says no, I'm actually on the strike. Then what the campuses are doing is finding others either inside or outside the university, contract employees for the 4 or 5 days who have the skills, the requisite skills to provide mental health counseling. So we have the correct level of service for our students. There is also I won't get the words precisely right here, but there is a professional standard for accredited counselors. That they have to, when they have a patient that is requiring ongoing care, if they are not going to be able to meet an appointment that's scheduled, that they have a professional duty and responsibility to call that student and to make alternative arrangements. So the campuses are in the process. This thing is still, a month away roughly. Are in the process of making sure that we have appropriate coverage for mental health, as well as law enforcement and other safety things around workplace safety and things of that nature. We have animal care issues for research that's using animals, amphibians, rats, etc. So there's a lot of work that's going on, and it's not all complete today because it's a big project and it's being done campus by campus, and the communications will continue to get clearer as we get closer. People will start paying closer attention to it. So I don't accept the fact that there isn't going to be adequate communications out there. There's really a very serious plan to make sure that happens.
Follow up?
Yeah, we're about a month away from the strike. I'm a CAPS service student and I've heard no information. I understand that counselors have an obligation of giving notice for about 2 months. We heard that earlier today. They have a similar requirement that nurses do. It's a little misleading, I guess, to hear from the president that nothing's going to change when things do change. Having a temporary substitute counselor isn't necessarily the same thing as continuing services. The other bit.
So let me just ask you then, if your counselor chooses, if a person's counselor chooses to withhold service because they want to go on strike, then is it better to just not have that session, or is it better to have a person who has been briefed on what the issues are and provide the counseling that the student would normally get from somebody else? And our point of view is to make sure that we offer the services on a campus-by-campus, student-by-student basis.
So I'm not in a direct contract with my counselor in particular. I go through the university to handle that, and as part of going through the university to handle that, I expect the university to ensure that those services are completed and paying for tuition and going to Hill Day and going to our Capital Day on Monday and advocating for a greater budget from the state. Part of my expectation is in doing that work that the university will make sure that those services continue and that they continue in an adequate way. And so,
Yeah, so I think my answer to the question was, that's the plan.